Thanks, Alex.
It's been great for the rest of you, but a little annoying. Okay, this is land use planning. We have two items on the agenda tonight. We have a post-public hearing review of the Four Sisters Inn, DRI 731 in Oak Bluffs, and a post-public hearing review of DRI 279M Still Point Meadows. The purpose of a post-public hearing review is for land use planning to review the applicant offers, possible conditions and benefits and detriments, and to make a recommendation to the full commission to deny, approve, or approve with conditions. This is not part of the public hearing. The applicant really doesn't have a role in this, although the applicant obviously is, we invite the applicant to attend and observe, and they can answer questions if we need clarification. But it's really a matter of the members of the commission and the land use planning committee reviewing these matters and making a recommendation. So starting with Four Sisters Inn, Alex, would you tell us what, if anything, has happened since the close of the public hearing?
So the record was open until November 17th. And prior to that, we received the applicant offers, which we'll look at tonight. And we updated the staff presentation to include the addresses of the other 2.5 and 3-story buildings that we had shown last time. And that's all the new information in the record.
Okay. But we do have the applicant's offers, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, why don't we go over them?
Okay. And this shows where there's a corresponding condition.
That's helpful, yeah. Okay. Number 1 is pretty straightforward. Number 2 is pretty straightforward. Number 3 is pretty straightforward. 2 and 3 are pretty much covered by our standard conditions. Number 4 is the applicant's offer on housing. It is, I think, somewhat different than ours. So too bad we don't have ours up at the same time. Number 5 is standard. Number 6 is consistent with what they told us.
Yeah.
Number 7 is consistent with the public hearing, all electric. Number 8 is consistent with the public hearing. They did not make an offer to address the off-street parking issue. And number 9 and number 8 are somewhat linked. And number 10.
Excuse me. Doug, I thought I remembered that there was discussion about parking with that they would, at least they knew about the parking fee that goes to the town for parking off-site. You know, the town hasn't yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they don't have to make an offer on that because what they plan to do is seek a waiver when they get their special permit and pay into the parking mitigation fund.
That's the one I meant. So they intend to do that.
Right. They don't really have to offer that, but they could.
But we might consider making a requirement that they do that.
We could also consider making a requirement that they provide additional off-street parking for guests. They're required to have a total of, under the parking law, they're required to have a total of 5 off-street parking spaces, and they're going to have 1 for staff.
Okay, well.
Yeah, we can address that and we get the conditions. Are
In
there
the
any?
condition, yeah.
And just to clarify, in order to waive that with the town, they would have to pay into the parking mitigation fund, from what I understand.
Right.
And it would be possible to make that a condition, yeah.
It would be possible to make that.
Okay, thanks.
Any commissioner comments about the offers? Okay, before we decide whether to accept any of these offers, I think it'd be worthwhile to look at our conditions. Since there's some
Right.
different. Number 1. Oh, Are we there yet? Nope.
Where are we?
Relevant to number one. Oh,
The first one is to address housing, employee housing. The proposal is that they come back basically after 1 year and
Right.
provide a plan to address housing. My recollection of the public hearing was that the applicant is going to have, the applicants are going to live there in one of the units, and they do not expect more than one on-island employee, and that would be a housekeeper.
Okay.
But they don't want to commit to anything at this time because they just don't know how it's going to work out. So this condition would require them to come back after 13 months and provide a plan. The plan could be, hey, we don't need any. Or the plan could be, this is our need and we have secured, a year-round lease for housing within within walking distance or something like that. Are there any commissioner comments about this one compared to what the applicant proposed?
I think that's, I think that's very reasonable. There's only 4 rooms.
Yeah.
You know, how many people do they need to take care of them? They gotta make a profit and.
Okay, so when you say very reasonable, do you mean the?
I'm sure she'll find.
I mean, our condition? That they come back and tell us what they propose
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
they've had some opportunity
That's
to
good.
see what their life is like? Okay,
Do we, Doug, do we need to say if they're not working something out at the end of 13 months, that's adequate, what do we do next when they come to us in 13 months and say, we haven't got it worked out?
well, if they don't, then we would not be approving whatever they propose, even if we're not prepared to
Right,
do
yeah,
anything, in which
yeah.
case they would be out of compliance. And that's how I read it.
That, yeah, I guess I'm thinking that if they're out of compliance in 13 months, do we have, there's, is then, but they're
We have our
using
usual.
our permission.
But
We have
John, I
our
couldn't hear you.
usual rights.
Yeah, we could, I suppose if we could say, to be explicit, if the applicant is not prepared to offer housing for employees, at that point, they have to seek a modification, just to make it clear they've got to come
Right.
back before
I
us.
was thinking that they
Other
can ask
than-
for a modification ahead,
Yeah.
yeah.
Other than that, we
Yeah.
would only have, if they didn't come back and if they came back and we rejected whatever they proposed, they would find themselves out of compliance, and all we would do is file a certificate of non-compliance, which
Right.
is a
Yeah.
nothing burger.
Right, but we could say to them perhaps even in this condition, if that doesn't work, the 13 months in a suitable plan, the applicant may ask for a modification of the condition. That's easy, and
So I
prolongs
think
it. if
maybe
they
not
don't-
may, maybe shall.
Right.
Any thoughts from other commissioners about this?
I guess
Well, I
I'd say,
no later than 13 months means they can come back, 1 month after they start operation and explain to
Right,
us the
yeah.
housing. And it would be
Well-
in their best interest to do that so they don't get pinned at 13 months. Don't wait till 13 months.
course,
is almost
Of
up.
course,
Well,
But
the
just-
plan's supposed to be based on the first year of operations, so we could say no later, no later than 1 month after the first year of operations is what we could say in the
Yeah.
first.
That's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I would almost want to give them a little more time than that.
yeah.
Let's give them 60 days. How's that? After the completion of first year of operations, or 90.
and what's the start of operations mean? They do have to get a C of O in this case because they're
C of
building.
O,
Yeah, it's gonna have to be the C of O,
Mhm.
because it's gonna be open year round.
Yeah, It's just a useful reminder to them, hey, come and ask to change this because, you know, and we may agree that you haven't found a suitable solution, but they have a new idea, yeah, or a new need, yeah.
Okay,
So it could be modified.
okay. Anything further on number one? Okay, let's go to number two, which is standard. Actually, 2 and 3 are standard, 4 is
Yeah.
standard, 5 standard, 6 is standard. I guess my question, I was thinking about this today. One of the chief complaints, perhaps the chief complaint at the public hearing of abutters was the imposition of additional parking requirements
Yeah,
for this area, which is where parking is already at a premium. This is an inn, and under the town bylaw, they have to provide 5 off-street parking spaces of 9 by 18 feet. And if they don't, they have to seek relief, which the bylaw provides. But the point is that the intent of the bylaw is to get these the parking for commercial enterprises off the street and relieve the stress on street parking. Do any commissioners feel that it would be worthwhile to have the applicant submit a plan to create at least 2 additional off-street parking spaces?
I
This
think
is
that's
Let's look-
overbearing on this.
What is, to do that?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
this is very, very typical in Oak Bluffs. If we didn't have the situation where people could buy the mitigation, we would have no new businesses at all, because there just isn't that kind of parking available. And the town has been trying very hard to find ways to control parking. This is, you know, it's a business in the business district, and it's not different than any of the other businesses that have been permitted, that we have permitted, that we have allowed in Oak Bluffs. And in all of those, we have allowed, we haven't tried to put additional conditions on parking.
Ben, did you? say
Yeah,
something?
I was gonna say that, you know, this is where the town has a set of procedures and rules in place to deal with this. So
Right.
it doesn't seem
Yeah.
like we need to add any more to that. The town can manage this piece of the permitting.
I think that, I mean, Oak Bluffs, the town probably realizes that the mitigation for the the off-street parking lot that they don't have yet, but that isn't working and the number isn't working. I mean, like we're thinking and saying, yeah, get some more off the street, but they've set that number, they know the problem, and I respect their planning work and probably gonna change that number, yeah. They're probably gonna change. So I don't think we should go any further than reiterating the number.
Okay.
I-
There's
I
no
know
interest
Bluffs
in
has
that at all.
chosen.
Well, excuse me, Christina, go
No,
ahead.
that's
Chuck.
good, yeah.
Yeah, I have a different issue. I remember, and I thought I asked a question and I guess maybe I just didn't follow up. The abutting neighbor wanted to know whether the HVAC system, the out exterior part, could be put on a different side of the house. I forgot to ask that before. I'm wondering whether we could seek clarification from the architect as to whether that would be feasible.
Chuck, you are here. What can be done about that, if anything? Is it possible to clarify that?
He disappeared.
No, he's here.
I'm
got-
here,
he's got
sorry,
unmute.
I had to
Go ahead.
step out for a minute, but we discussed the Daikin system being, one of the quietest on the market. It's similar to the one we have at the office, at my office, and it's standing next to it, you can barely hear it. It's a faint fan noise. It's not, there are carrier units and there are other units that are much
Right.
louder. There isn't really a great spot. We also need Copeland plan review. And I think they're going to be concerned with visibility from the street as far as the historic features they look at. So I don't think there's another spot for it, but I also do not feel like it will be an issue for the abutter because of the
Just-
equipment being used.
Just so that I'm clear, Chuck, looking at your parking plan, is it on the same side as the staff parking is, which is where it would abut, I think, the Pequot? Or is it on the
Well,
side?
there is one there.
On
There's
there,
also
yes.
one on the side of the neighbor who brought up the issue, but
Okay,
there's a driveway in between
I see, yeah.
her house and this, where this condenser would be located.
Okay,
Hey Chuck, one other question. Where's the laundry too? That was the other question that a butter had.
Wait,
Listening to the
Peter,
laundry
before
machine spin.
Before we get back, I just want to say, sounds great, Chuck. I'm pleased to hear that it's quiet. I'm just wondering whether it would be overkill to do what we've often done and talk about the level of the decibel level at the boundary of the property not exceeding 10 dB or something. I don't know what it is. I'm looking for other commissioners to say, yeah, it's a good idea, or no, it's not necessary. I don't know.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
I could get that information for you at the public hearing, Joan, so we at least have some numbers that we can put on it.
Would be at deliberation, and you could
Oh.
provide it as a clarification if we request it. Yeah, you should probably
So
have it
Alex,
available.
okay,
Yeah,
yep, that's
and-
fine, we can do that, yep.
and you have your hand up.
Yeah, with
Thanks,
all of these condensers, proper maintenance is the best way to keep them quiet. They do sort of get noisier as they get older, and if you don't maintain the fans, they do tend to generate more noise as they age. So if anything, it's a suggestion that the applicant maintain these, and that would protect them. We could potentially, if it is an issue, just require that there's some sound buffering at the property line. I'm just looking at the site plan to see how disruptive that would be to the operations. It seems like you could do it on both property lines without getting in the way of operations, but Chuck, you could be more clear on that.
And Alex, could you put a plan up so that we can follow Ben's reasoning?
Yeah, I think we could, Ben. I think a fence along the property line could certainly help to mitigate that. And we need a certain distance, but it looks like it would be about 18 inches away, the fence from the condenser, which would connect essentially a window well, which has a kind of an enclosure around it to
Yeah.
that second means of egress. So
This-
it could be integrated into it fairly easily.
Yeah, this site plan doesn't show them, Alex, but if you see the deck near the driveway. Yeah, go to that, that one has them, I think. Yeah, there you go. There.
A200.
You have to blow it up.
So it's labeled in blue there on the
Oops.
on the left side
Yep,
between the window well and the deck, and I think we could integrate a fence connecting those two elements and concealing the condenser. And
okay.
Can I ask for more clarification?
And what do you need?
Well, a fence around it, close to the condenser, or as close as needed for. Can you also put some low, but some bushy bushes, because bushes often mitigate the sound as well as a, fence.
I think the fence.
They
is
don't do a lot in
gonna
the winter. Yeah,
On
I
the
think the fence would be
side,
more effective.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
especially if it's
Chuck,
a
on the-
sound deadening one.
yeah, on the side. That abuts map 10 parcel 72. There's very little room to actually access that condenser.
you're right,
Um,
yeah.
would you have to go across the property line to get to that side of the building to do any sort of maintenance there?
Jump from the deck.
Yeah, you could get into it without getting on the property. Whether it were, a small built-in ladder, yes, from the deck, there will be a ladder up from the window well.
Mhm.
So I think maybe a series of ladders might be helpful for everyone's cause in there.
So just to summarize and clarify, it would be possible for the applicant to surround these 3 HVAC condensers with a sound attenuation fence and still have access. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so
That's
But
accurate.
not bushes. Not
Not
enough
bushes.
room.
there's no room
Bushes
for
could-
bushes
It's
there.
effective.
Yeah,
If they
they're
want
not
to put
effective.
bushes in for landscaping purposes, they can, but it doesn't do the same job.
No,
Right.
no, not instead of, no, a fence is needed, yeah.
Okay, so we could condition this to do that. Since the record is otherwise closed, the applicant cannot offer it. But we have a clarification that it could be done, and also that they are relatively quiet condensers anyway. Is there a consensus of this group to add that condition?
Yes,
I would like to.
Yeah.
Okay, we will do that then. That would be number 7.
Do you want me to address the question about the laundry?
Sure, yes, please do.
So Alex, I don't know if you want to scroll down to A100, but it shows the laundry on the back side. And that can be vented out on that backside on the Pequot side. I believe their laundry is somewhat close to that, but that could also be behind that sound attenuating fence, which would run along the property line.
That'd be
great.
Kind of.
So we would include we would include both HVAC units and the laundry vent within that fence. Okay,
Correct.
Perfect.
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other commissioner thoughts regarding conditions?
yes.
Go right ahead.
I think I'd seen it, I mean, I see in their offer that they're saying we're gonna connect to the town sewer. I haven't seen a letter from the town sewer saying, fine, here's your permit to do it.
That-
And
They
I'd
they
like,
have to, or they can't build it.
Right,
well, since they made the offer, I would suggest a condition, not
They have to, or
necessarily.
they can't build it, Christina.
it's unnecessary, Christina.
Okay,
They don't have a choice. Is that right, Fred?
The-
No room for septic there.
yeah.
Not on the plans.
No. Okay,
Well, I
So-
was thinking of another commercial building that said they would, but the sewer commission said, no, they won't.
It-
Well,
Or they couldn't at that time.
okay, well, let's move on. I think maybe we should, trying to figure out, looking at the applicant's offers. One is wastewater, exterior lighting, landscaping, employee housing, modifications. Are all handled by our, and modifications are all handled by our conditions. As a clarification, Chuck, on number 6, management events food, which says the property will be owner occupied and operated year round. There will be no events at the property. Breakfast will be served to guests of the inn only. I think what you mean there is that in addition, there's no other food service shall be provided. Would that be a reasonable clarification of that offer, or is that not consistent with what they want to do?
No, that's consistent. I think it was only thinking breakfast was not an event,
No, it isn't,
but
but
the only
also-
food service will be breakfast.
okay, so that could be added as a clarification of that offer shall be provided.
But it doesn't have
Thank
to
you.
be in all caps.
It's just a note, Christina.
It's just a note.
I know, I know. I just-
Okay, so, it would seem that what we should do is accept the offers 1 and 6 through 10. And if there's a consensus, recommend accepting 1, 6 through 10 of the offers and all of the possible conditions, including a new number 7 to add a sound attenuation fence around the HVAC units and the laundry vent.
So moved.
Okay,
Second,
any further discussion of this? Okay, this is in the event we recommend it to approve this with conditions. These would be the conditions and offers. All in favor, kindly raise your hand where Doug can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. Okay, that's unanimous. 7-0. I like unanimous. Let's go to benefits and detriments. And I think that was a good point, that the town can handle the what Fred's point about the off-street parking.
Yeah,
It was just a thought of mine to mitigate it, but the town has a plan to deal with it, and we should defer to the town on that. And it would be awfully hard for the applicant to do. So we'll let the town deal with it. Benefits and detriments. We'll just scroll through these. The primary factor ones are traffic and transportation, character and identity, housing and economic development, impact on abutters. I think that's it. Yep, that's a lot. Look, there's going to be traffic. There's going to be possibly 4 additional vehicles, although they're going to discourage it. Although probably the reality of trying to park there may discourage it as much as anything, in the
Mhm,
summer at
yeah.
least.
yeah.
But it is what it is. There may or may not be parking for additional staff needed. There's going to only be 1 parking place. I'd say that's a major impact. Is it would seem to be a detriment because it's a very densely populated area with very limited parking to begin with, and they're going to add parking.
Well, they might add parking.
Well,
Yeah.
they're going to add 4 guest rooms that could potentially add additional vehicles.
Right. I mean, I think I'm hesitant to assume that there is going to be a detriment. They're going to do, it's not in their best interest to have people bring a car and suffer with parking. It's going to be in their best interest to say, we don't have any parking spaces. We're right near the ferry. You will never be able to park. You should really walk. We'll pick you up, et cetera, et cetera. That is in their best interest. So I'm not assuming if it's potentially detrimental, but I also think that 4 isn't, the end of the world. I just wanted to make it clear that this is not a huge detriment.
Okay, I don't think it's a huge detriment, but I think it is definitely a detriment. Let's go to character and identity. It's going to be a big building relative to the ones in the immediate area, but it also is subject to detailed architectural review by the Cottage City Historic District Commission, which would, I assume, have quite a bit of expertise in making sure that it's consistent with the neighborhood. Any comments on character and identity?
Well, we do acknowledge that it's bigger, but it resembles the Victorian eclectic style of the neighborhood, which is a good thing.
Yeah, and in that regard, I'd like to ask, I know that we're dealing with an empty block now, but Chuck, maybe you know whether the building that was there before demolition was architecturally interesting.
It was in the folder, but there was an original structure that was added on to at some point. So the original structure would, quote unquote, was more interesting than the addition. And it does, you can see the addition in the back with the hip roof. Didn't really fit on that well to the existing structure.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, I asked because I think that this is probably a benefit that
Yes.
the empty, the prior structure was, well, pretty disastrous. The empty block is not so good, and what's being built is something that will, by definition, fit in with the architectural vernacular. So I think that's a benefit.
Okay. Okay, let's move to housing and economic development unless, oh wait, Ben has your hand, you have your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the architecture fits the area. What may be something to consider is the volume of the building filling, it pretty much fills the entire property. And if you look around in that neighborhood, it's mixed. Some of those lots are entirely filled with the buildings. Some of them
Yeah.
have a driveway to the side. Some of them even have some yard space. So it's somewhat mixed. But this is a corner lot and it is filling the lot almost entirely. So from a character and identity standpoint, it's a bit of a mixed bag there, whether this improves the neighborhood or it's just going to further sort of overwhelm it. And so I think that's just something to consider. I'm not sure where I land on that yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
But again, I would say also that this is in the business district, which has very different setbacks than in the residential districts, which even those in this part of Oak Bluffs are they're pretty much built to the property lines in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So it's not out of, I don't find it out of keeping. And as we've heard testimony, they could build this structure as a private house with getting the Cottage City Historic District approval. So it's not necessarily big because it's commercial. It might be
Yeah.
bigger because it's in the commercial district and the setbacks are different.
Yeah.
I think it's in the commercial district, but it's integrated into residential neighborhoods. I mean, it's a little peculiar the way the zoning districts are set up in that area. And so, yes, it's in a commercial business district, but it's very integrated into the residential districts around it.
I'm wondering, Alex, whether you could add a few more bullet points to try and capture some of the comments that have been made about the prior building and the lot.
Yeah.
Footprint and the integration with, the commercial this and the commercial district, but integration with residential for the purpose of having a fuller document for the benefit of the full commission.
I'll fill that out.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
let's move to housing and economic development. It's a commercial entity. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a benefit. It's another housing opportunity that doesn't take housing away from existing owners.
Yeah.
So it's providing housing for people in the summertime and all year, which is one of the things that we're looking for. And also, I think it provides an infill building, which is one of the kind of island plan goals, so that it's not cutting down trees anywhere. It's not tearing down a building. It's putting a building on an open lot, which I think is a positive.
Okay, Peter?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, in terms of economic development, you're taking something that's non-productive to something that's not only contributing to the tax base, but think of the room tax, that's hitting everybody's coffer, in terms of being a very, very positive, for that neighborhood and for Oak Bluffs. So I look at this as positive.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a benefit.
And can I, again, sorry, check for some clarification. My assumption always was that there are 5 other employees. We know there's a full-time housekeeper. That leaves 4 people. Are they employees? I'm assuming they're part-time people that have other jobs, you know, doing whatever they do elsewhere. Do you, I meant to ask this during the hearing. I thought I did, but now I'd like.
I'll double check and confirm with Alex, but I'm pretty sure there are 5 employees total. 2 are the owners.
Yeah,
There was a
total,
landscaper.
okay.
Yeah, there was a landscaper who would be someone local that comes, you know, for an hour to break
That's
and
not
mow.
really an employee. Do you know what I mean?
No,
It's-
but that was one of the 5 listed. And then there's a bookkeeper who is going to be remote, not necessarily on the island, but they do not need to be on site.
And the housekeeper, which
I
makes
thought they
5.
said somebody in
And the
Atlanta.
housekeeper
Yes, I
would be
do
one
remember
that they
that
would,
now.
that they would be housing, and they're going to be on site in the manager's apartment.
Yeah, I mean, I think
So-
this is fine for now, but when they come back, I think you should tell them that a landscaper, like I got a landscaper from time to time, he's not my employee. I think that needs to be, when they come back with their plan, I guess they'll be quite detailed about who is an employee and who's not, and who needs housing and who doesn't. But I think we can probably leave this here for now. But I don't want them to get twisted in a knot in a year.
It's really about the housekeeper, and I think we.
It says-
Right.
Under economic development, one of the bullet points is the inn would be open year round and have a capacity of 8 overnight guests, just 8 overnight guests. And then underneath that, you're gonna have
rooms,
5
yeah.
employees. Which
Yeah,
was
that's
be-
why I was initially concerned too, Trip, because it just didn't seem quite right. I think it's fair to say, though, that those people are probably part-time, they may not even be employees, they're providing housing at the moment for 50%, which is to say the on-site, and, you know, next year we'll find out about the housekeeper.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem there at all.
Okay, let's move then to impact on abutters.
So, yeah.
It's
so
generally
I think
considered a
that was
benefit.
A benefit.
Yes. Impact on abutters. The abutters certainly believed that it would be a detriment. That was very clear from testimony from a good half dozen of them.
Yeah,
I think you have to conclude that it is.
well, yeah, but mitigated by some of the things we were saying, the clarifications.
Mitigated, but
How
not,
is it mitigated? It's not mitigated.
Well, they're gonna put a fence around the air conditioner.
Boy, if you consider that a significant mitigation,
Well,
I don't know.
well, at that site, yeah,
well, I think you need to look at all the other bullet points
Yeah.
to decide
Yeah,
whether or not it's
sure.
a
I know.
Putting a
Okay.
fence around the air conditioner may cut down on the cooling capacity of those motors and put everybody in trouble there.
Well, that's rather speculative. I don't think we can really draw a conclusion one way or another about that Trip.
And I suspect that they'll be installed consistent with the manufacturer's instructions,
Yep.
or they'll come back.
Okay. It generally aligns with the island plan. It's minimal impact on municipal services. It will increase the limited demand for the limited number of public parking spots. So there you go. And appropriate or essential in view of the alternatives. Well, I guess the alternative is that it would be a private home, or it could be a different kind of commercial entity in a business district.
It does-
Peter, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you scroll back to that lighting part? One of the things, if I was a neighbor, I know that on that side where the abutter is, there's a deck and there's stairs. I certainly wouldn't want lights that are shining across that little driveway into my house.
I think the lighting, they have to come back with a final exterior lighting plan. They have to come back to land use planning for review and approval prior to getting a CO. All exterior lighting shall be downward shielded, comply with dark sky, and they have to do the 3000 Kelvin. So I assume that they'll submit a lighting plan that does not impact the neighbor. And if they don't, we'll be on top of them anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's a good concern.
We have a history of that, yeah.
We do.
Show the
Can I
lighting.
just add to that, Doug?
Yeah,
if you
sure
don't mind?
thing, sure thing.
That
You can
That
clarify.
door is the second means of egress, so it's not an active door, and that light would be on a motion sensor, so it would only come in if someone's coming in and out that door, but that would only
Okay.
be in the case of an emergency.
The motion sensor is not going to trigger movement in the neighbor's driveway that's just a few feet away, I hope.
No, it can be
Okay,
right down above the door, so it would only
Yeah, that
have to
would
be
be
someone in
best.
front of the door.
so hopefully, if it's done right, there'll be no lighting on that side to interfere with the neighbor. Okay, all right. Having reviewed the benefits and detriments and voted on accepting some offers and imposing some conditions, recommending all that. Is there any further discussion about whether we should approve with conditions, or deny this?
Mr. Chairman, I would
Yeah.
move that we recommend to the full commission to approve this project with the conditions that we've already set out.
I'd second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, this is a vote for recommendation to approve with conditions and accepting offers. Yes, Trip, you have your hand up, or are you already voting? Can't hear you. You are muted. You just want to vote, in which case, all in favor, raise your hand when Doug can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, there you go. All
You
right.
got
I got
Beth's
six.
abstaining or something.
Yeah, I'm just abstaining. I
Oh,
gotta
sorry.
look at the scale again.
Okay. 6, 0, and 1. Vote to approve with conditions. Recommend. Okay. Chuck, I don't think this is on in this calendar year. I think you're going to get stuck with January the 6th. Is that right, Alex?
I believe January 5th is the earliest we could do it.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate all of your time. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Chuck.
and we appreciate the clarifications. You
Oh,
actually did
very much so.
clarify some
Thanks,
things. And that was
Chuck.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My pleasure. Thank you.
okay, take care.
You too.
I'll just make a note here. Okay, next is Still Point. Alex, can
Doug, I'm gonna
you?
bow out here.
Oh, that's
Thanks.
right. I think, well, Jim's not on this. Okay, so there's 6 commissioners involved in this. Let's get to the next piece, load of papers. Alice, can you tell us what, if anything, has occurred since the close of the public hearing?
Yep. We do have a little more information. Just give me a minute. So the record closed on the 28th. Before then, we received a map from the applicant showing the proposed additional clearing along State Road and how that would affect the site distance to the south. And then also a number of new letters as listed here. I sent these all out also earlier. So this is the map provided by the applicant working with their traffic engineer. So this shows bringing the existing clearing in this area to a total of 15 feet from the road edge, which would increase the sight line to the south to 200 feet, as shown from this car to this point down here. So this was provided in response to commissioner questions, and our traffic engineer looked at this and did not have any other concerns about the sight lines.
Was it included as an offer to keep it cleared?
I don't know. We'll see that when we look at the
Yeah,
offers.
I don't think it was included as an offer because the
No.
offers are dated the 14th. Okay, well, we can add it as a condition, possibly. All right, let's look at the applicant's offers next. No, those are our conditions.
No, these are the
Oh.
offers. Yep, I just put them in a Word document so that we could.
All right,
if
yeah,
we need to.
I was looking at the proposal from the 14th. Okay. No more than 4 weddings of more than 80 people, not to exceed 100 per calendar year. No outdoor amplified music. The rest of it, it really is their gloss and is not the offer. And I think probably doesn't belong there at all.
So I just want to clarify something. I think what that means is that there could be more weddings of less than 80 persons. Is that
Yeah,
what others
Yeah,
read?
there's no limit
Yeah, okay.
until you get down to number 2.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's go
Yeah.
look at number 2. Still Point with limited, this is their proposal, limit activities and no more than 2 events of more than 80 people a week, June, July, and August. No more than 1 event of more than 80 people a week, September to May. And from after that, there's again a gloss that doesn't belong there. And I think probably should be stricken.
It's their
Because
offer, whatever.
I know it's their offer. I know it's their offer, but it's not part of the offer. It's a justification. It's not an offer. It's
But I'm
movement.
just, so still, there's no clarification of anything less than 80. Okay.
The proposal.
Right, we haven't gotten there yet.
included-
Yeah, I'm just keeping track.
Yeah,
And there were statements in the proposal as to how smaller events would likely play out. We'll see those in the benefits index.
yeah, well, we're gonna get down to number 3. Private events between 40 and 80 people are limited to no more than 2 per week. That's their proposal. Number 4, outside amplified music, no more than 3 days per year, 2 to 9 p.m. Shall not
I-
limit. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes,
When we get to
Christine?
conditions, I'd like to consider, seriously considering a condition that says no amplified music. We've been
Let's
It's
get
through that.
it's already there, Christina.
Okay, doke, thanks.
Okay,
As
Number
opposed
5.
to, yeah.
no sale of alcohol. That's okay. Keep going.
Now, just to be clear, they're not selling alcohol, but they're not saying that alcohol can't be served at an event.
They certainly are not. They're
Correct.
saying that it cannot be sold by them or by anyone using the property. But it can be served.
Hmm.
Okay, 6 is encouraging carpooling. 7 is it's standard. 8, 9, 10. These are all things that are covered by our usual conditions. Okay, number 12, they do have as an offer. I assume. But vegetation lot 413, no, it's not. Okay, to the right of the unit. Okay,
It is, but I think that we could say it more clearly as indicated on, plan, whatever.
yeah, I think I should ask for a clarification. Are you saying in number 12 that you will keep clear and maintain the area described in the plan? Marilyn, is that a clarification?
I think that's correct.
Okay, why don't we revise that for the clarification?
Mhm.
Okay, number 13 says they're going to put up a sign. And this is an offer with regard to development of lots 4, 9, and 413.
Yeah,
Can
We-
I just clarify one thing
Yeah.
about that? That isn't so much an condition or an offer as it was those restrictions were something that they were agreed upon between Still Point and Claudia. If Still Point's able to conduct its activities on these lots, then that condition will be imposed.
Well, is that a recorded restriction?
It is not.
Okay, and is it part of a contract that survived closing and the delivery of the deed?
It is.
Okay, well, that unfortunately that's a private agreement, so we can't enforce it. So the question is whether or not, but you're offering it as part of your proposal for this application, so you could include it as an offer. Okay. Let's go to 15. Let's commissioners have comments on 14.
I have a clarification question. Will that be a restriction that is, as Doug was outlining them, like we usually have restrictions? They're recorded, they're legally forever.
If it's an offer that's part of our decision that we accept, it will be recorded and they're stuck
Thank
with
you.
it.
Thank you.
And we may not accept it in that form.
Good.
I'm not sure that it's particularly enforceable It's for the benefit of the owner of all
No.
the lots.
No.
Let's move to 15.
Hey, Doug,
Yep.
one
Go ahead.
question.
I'm sorry, Peter. I didn't see your hand. I apologize.
I'm sorry, on 14, I know there was a letter that kind of referenced some legal language where you can't restrict land you already own.
That was from VCS.
Does
Yeah,
that, is
that's
this,
what I was-
does point 14 address that concern?
It does, no, the letter addressed the proposal in 14, which is to restrict development on lots 4-9 and 4-13 for the benefit of lots 4-10 and 4-11. They are all owned by Still Point, and my understanding is that that restriction would merge, and it's really unenforceable unless it was part of a deed out of
Yeah.
lot 4-10 or
Yeah.
4-11 to a third party. I
So
don't
is
know.
14 then unenforceable and really kind of meaningless then?
Well, I think
You have a condition that deals with it, and if it's a
Right.
condition, we got it.
We have a condition that addresses it, and separately, Marilyn has just told us that there is an unrecorded enforceable contract between Still Point and the seller with regard to that. But I think essentially we can't really that's not relevant for our purposes, because the seller doesn't own lots 4-10 and 4-11 anyway, even though she may have a right to enforce that.
Okay.
Okay, 15. 15 is their version of our usual modification. And 16 is their housing proposal. If they determine that staff is in need of housing, then they'll either construct housing or contribute $25,000 to be paid over 2 years at their sole discretion. And I think it's fair to say we're not going to accept that offer. We don't leave it up to an applicant to make those determinations, but that's their offer. Any further comments about their offers before we go to conditions?
Well, I hate to belabor something, but
Go right ahead.
is there a limit being proposed by Still Point for Still Point mission events? Is there a capacity limit and a frequency limit?
I think if you go down to, it's 3 or 4, it's the only thing that comes close to it. There's no capacity limit.
But that's
That's correct.
private events, so that's not, I'm talking about Still Point mission events, like whatever. I
There's
don't
some
see it.
information in the proposal itself, which we'll get to in the benefits and detriments notes, but I don't, off the top of my head, I can't quite remember. what the-
Yeah, okay. I think we've dealt with it anyway.
Yeah, we've dealt
Joan,
with it. It's not. Go ahead, John.
we're talking about the normal day-to-day attendance, if you will.
Yes,
Right. They have, and Alex has incorporated it into the benefits and detriments as bullet points. Their proposal, which is not part of the offers, is a proposal for 2 to 3 events. Peak summer activity, evening, 40 to 60 patrons, 3 to 6 staff, 2 to 3 times a week, nights a week. Daytime, 10 to 50 patrons plus staff, 2 to 3 times a day. Off-season, evening, 20 to 50 patrons, 3 times a week. Daytime, 10 to 50 patrons, 6 times a week, up to 9 events per week in the off-season. So that's what their proposal is. And if we approve that, that's what they would be doing. So let's turn to the conditions.
I got one thing to ask. We had an extended conversation about police or someone directing traffic. And unless I missed it, I haven't seen anything so far today about someone being on the road to monitor people going in and out.
That's a good point, Tripp, and you haven't seen it yet because haven't gotten to conditions. It's one of the proposed conditions. They have not offered that, okay? So 1A and 1B. Is limits on, first of all, okay, 1A, except as provided below. The only activities may take place are Still Point sponsored events, curated events, with third-party private events, provided in every case it has to meet the nonprofit educational purpose and the capacity. Not 1A is basically you've got to meet the educational use purpose, and the capacity is limited to no more than 50 people. Okay. Then you go to B. Let's just finish it
could I
first.
Could I suggest in one that perhaps 60 is a better number than 50?
You know what,
No.
Fred, I think that we should understand what's being proposed, and then we can look at in the bigger picture, the bigger context, what to do with it. If you don't mind. I mean, it's not my meeting, but I feel like we should see what the conditions say.
Yeah, let's go through 1A and 1B, Fred, and then address that point. It's absolutely a relevant point, and that's why it's in brackets rather than.
Right. That's what I
alone.
figured.
Yeah. Okay, next is events where they're basically renting the property to third parties for uses provided, okay, it's either uses separate from their educational use that are not
Right.
directly related. And the proposed condition is one such event per week, June through September, a total of no more than 12 in any one calendar year. And the capacity of no more than 70 people.
Wow.
Okay, 75, excuse me. So
75.
you're talking about 12 events, 12 non-educational use events in a calendar year, no more than one per week, June through September. So if they had them all through there, they'd have, there's well more than 12 weeks in those 4 months. And the limit would be 75 people. Okay. The other part is there are not limits on the number of Still Point curated or basically educational use related events, but there is a limit on the number of people, which is 50. So let's talk first of all about educational use, educational purpose events that arguably are within their mission. Do we want to limit it to some number? The maximum capacity of the barn is 100. They obviously can have more than 100 people outside if they
So
wanted to.
I want to speak to this. I think what Thomas's primary goal is and primary objective is fantastic. And I don't think there was a single person who testified that didn't think that what Thomas intends to do is anything other than needed, a great opportunity, and wonderful. Okay, but I do think that even if that's the case, this is a very, very special piece of land abutting extraordinary properties that are used by the public, especially Poly Hill, that are natural venues that where noise and quiet and light are problematic, but also where the character of this area is rural and pastoral and contemplative, as Thomas suggests. So what worries me is that the sort of morphing the character of the area with extensive use that is large in the number of people and large in frequencies. It really does concern me. I am certain that I could be happy approving this project. It's not that it's inherently bad, it's inherently good, but that is my concern.
Well, there's
yeah.
given that concern, there is no limit, unless I've missed something, which is always possible. There's no limit on the number of educational purpose activities that can occur there. And as the applicant's proposal has pointed out, you could have 600 to 700 events a year there.
Yeah, well, I'm not thrilled with that, but I'm only one voice and there's some room for compromise, of course.
Well, there's-
That's why, I mean, I again bring up my thought on number one, that I think 60 is a better number. Because with 50, I mean, if you've got facilitators and other staff, you're really talking about, 40 to 45 people, real attendees. So, or I think it should be bumped a little bit. I'm not at all against having a limitation.
Do you think it should be bumped to 70?
No, I think 60 in number one.
Okay. How do other commissioners feel about that? I'm okay with 60. Go ahead, Trip.
By all means, 60, 75, whatever.
Other
100.
commissioner thoughts?
And I think in the B section,
Yeah.
I would propose that 75 to be 80 for basically the same reasons.
Okay, these are basically fundraiser events or
Right.
commercial events. That's the thing you've got to keep in mind with B. B is there for them to make money to support their educational use mission. Okay, so are there other thoughts by, okay, go ahead, Christina.
Yeah, I haven't figured it all out by thought here, but under B, it says, I think it's saying they could have 12 private events, including weddings and birthdays and concerts in one calendar year. If those 12 events were in the summer, all of them or most of them, it disturbs me that the natural inhabitants of that land would be significantly disturbed by 12 events in the summer of 80 people having a noisy good time, spreading out over the property, scaring the nesting birds, and so on and so forth. I'm exaggerating, but you get the general tone. You get the meaning that 12 private, less controllable and less controlled events in the summer rather than spread out over the year really does worry me, and I think we need to consider what effect it would have on the property itself. I agree with Joan. It's a very special natural environment right now.
Peter?
I don't want to, dictate their finances. I know B kind of pays for,
Sure, we
pays for
yeah.
everything.
Let
I
him
They were
guess-
clear about that.
Is
so-
there?
let him
it-
talk, Christina. Go ahead.
Is there is there a minimum number of events, that keeps them afloat? Is that number 6? Is it 10? Is it 15? I don't know the answer to that. The other thing is should we include a 1C that speaks to events that are held the rest of the year, September through June, which can also be, profitable for them, and
Well,
perhaps spread the impact, right? Spread that impact out over the year rather than
Why-
trying to cram it into 12 months.
You could say that 6 of those 12 events can occur June through September, and 6 can occur October through May.
Right.
That you could do that to lessen the impact, which addresses Christina's concern.
Right.
As to the number they need to stay afloat, I don't think there is such a number, and there's nothing stopping the applicant from soliciting and raising fundraising the way every other nonprofit has to do. They don't necessarily need events. There are lots of nonprofits who don't do any events. They don't have a facility to do events. So, some of them may want to rent this facility to do their events. That's really, what I'm concerned about.
I think also in speaking to Christina's point, while we have a limit of 1 per week, we might want to have a monthly limit as well. Maybe not more than 2 per month.
Well,
That
they've
sounds
got,
good.
if we do with the 6 in season, which is what, June, July, August, and
And September, yeah, but they could have 4 in 1 month.
Right. That was my point.
They could have 4 in June. That's wedding season. Part of it,
Well, I think 2 per month is
yeah. So you're talking now 2 per month in a 4-month period and a maximum of 6 events in that 4-month period and 6 events. And I guess it really should be 2 per month year round. And 6 events in the off season.
so here's what I want to say. I think this is kind of micromanaging it, but
Yep.
under these circumstances, I feel that it really, to protect that publicly accessed land, which is so truly extraordinary, we need to do this. And I'm sorry to do it, but I really do think we do need to.
If the applicant
Yes, we're
feels
turning
it-
into a venue.
Yeah, and if the applicant feels that their track record has established that the impact on the surrounding conservation land is less, and they can always come back and seek a modification. Okay, anything more on 1A and 1B? Have we got them sort of knocked out?
Can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
Okay. Why would the amount of people for the Still Point sponsored educational events be less than B? Why would A be less than B when Still Point is, the mission is quiet and contemplative, as Joan had pointed out? So I'm just a little,
I think the answer to that's obvious. You can have an unlimited number of events, right? So you can have 700 events with 60 people. Now, even if they don't say a word, they're all meditating the whole time. That's an awful lot of driving in and driving out. I think that, yeah, there's a lot more impact because there's no limit on the number of events.
okay, so it's traffic, not noise.
Well, it's all of
Traffic,
it.
it's noise, it's lighting, and
It's
it's
everything.
character. But we've drawn a line someplace. You got to draw a line someplace.
Okay, let's move on to 2. It's just saying that they've got to show a preference for activities consistent with their mission, but it doesn't mean that they can't have activities that are not. Number 3 is much more important. No amplified music outdoors. Any outdoor amplified sound, which would be, for example, a speaker who had a microphone, and measured at the boundaries with Polly Hill and the Land Bank property shall not exceed the level of ambient sound at the boundaries. Any commissioner comments?
it's just the sort of thing that I was going to suggest. So I think I am very much in favor of that. Doug, just to go back to 2
Sure.
for a moment here, what we're asking for is what their procedure is for screening. Is that?
That seems to be what it is. They have to tell us how they're going to screen. I mean, to me, it's a so what. They apply a preference. That doesn't mean they can't let other people in. they're gonna have 12 events, private events, and they can apply a preference for activities that align with their educational purpose, but that doesn't stop them from renting it for weddings. I guess you could say that they'd have to justify it, but you know,
This kind of raises the question, if a group that wants to use the property is determined to align, to some degree with the Still Point mission, at what point does that not become one of those private events and becomes one of the nonprofit events? So that's partly what could be clarified with what they come back to the LEPC with.
okay, that's a good point. Anything further on 2 and 3? Number 4 is more about amplification. The only indoor amplification would be for films and speakers. No amplified live or recorded music except required for a soundtrack. And again, any amplified sound has to be no greater than ambient sound at the boundaries with Land Bank and Poly Hill. I think it's very important to control the sound level, given that they're surrounded on 3 sides by conservation land. No overnight accommodations. Sale of alcohol, that's consistent with their offer. Number 7, can we pull up number 7 addresses Tripp's concern? This requires a police detail at the entrance to the Still Point Road for any event with 51 or more people.
So this
When
was
did
made 51 because you'll remember above on number 1A, 50 was the target number, but I'm not sure that it should be 61. I mean,
I was sort of I guess it's the number of cars more than the number of people, but I don't know how we.
they don't know that.
Right.
So we have to make some
Right.
assumptions.
Yeah,
I mean, my point was, as Alex was fingering there too, that I think it should go to 60 if it's, yeah, I mean, to me, it seems reasonable at 60, 61.
Probably 30 cars at the most.
well, keep in mind that based on their proposal, they could have up to, in the summer, 5 events of 60, people. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
if
but this-
the consensus is 61, let's change it, Alex.
There was a conversation where they were going to have one person that was sort of on their payroll that would be available anytime there was anything. And, I suppose if it was a 20-car deal, I don't see why they got to bring in the police to kill the budget for whatever they're trying to do.
I think they're required to use the police rather than a private entity.
Standing in State Road.
Yeah, standing in state road and on a state highway.
There's
I don't
some
think
down at the Agricultural Society, for the fair, et cetera, but they're not there for many of the other things that are going on.
Trip, you might remember that we did this with the marijuana facility in State Road in West Tisbury. And the police chief came back after a year and said, you don't need a police detail. So if 60 people coming in and out is not at the same time, is not a problem, and the police chief says no problem, they're not gumming up traffic and it's not dangerous, then that's what they'll tell us, and they come back and we'll get rid of the condition.
Whatever.
So basically, they can come back after a year of full operations, and if the police chief says, hey, it's not a problem, it'll go away. Okay, let's go to number 8.
So I don't know that they're going to get a certificate of occupancy. I don't know that. The building is already there, standing. This is for a change of use, really. So I don't know what the right time, what right condition is.
I don't know.
I'll double check.
I can clarify that for if you
Yeah,
want,
please
Josh
do.
Gothard here. So once the change of use is completed, there would be a new CO issued.
That's that answers our question. Okay, so there will be a new CO, so it's a good trigger.
Great.
So it'd be a receipt of a C of O for the the applicant's proposed use. Because they've got to get a C of O for their educational purposes.
Correct.
Okay.
It's for an assembly space.
Okay.
All right. Okay, great.
This proposed condition is intended to put some limit on the applicant's use of its the surrounding undisturbed woodlands of the applicant and the land bank. Keep in mind, the applicant has, oh gosh, what is it? 2 other lots that it's not developing at this particular time, which they've got to be at least 6 or 7 acres. Plus the land bank has quite a bit of land there. So if you had, for example, 50 people trooping through the land bank property at the same time, that would not be very good for the environment. So that's the intent of this. It's pretty strict. There's no doubt about that. Groups of 5 or fewer. And if it's more than that, you got to have basically a monitor. It's still put employee. And they, since they are directly abutting Polly Hill, and access to Polly Hill is supposed to be through Polly Hill's entryway and parking lot and so forth. There's a sentence at the end just saying attendees don't access Polly Hill from our property. It's not unreasonable at all, unless Polly Hill says, sure, we don't care. Because there's going to be a, especially for larger events, there's going to be a temptation to park in
sure.
the Polly Hill parking lot
Yeah.
and walk over.
Yeah,
Hopefully that won't happen. Or there'll be a temptation for people to wander over to Polly Hill, which is a lovely property. Any commissioner comments about condition number 8?
It's reasonable.
Okay, let's go to 9. This is our condition for housing, saying they've got to come back after 2 years and give us a plan to provide employee housing to mitigate the housing impact. They'll be able to tell us what their experience has been with employees and make a proposal to address it. They could make a proposal to say, well, here's $25,000 as they've proposed, or hey, we're going to build housing. But we don't have to accept it. And it comes back to the full MVC, not just land use planning.
So I would say why I like this, we ordinarily make a housing decision upfront, but this is a new enterprise. And it may take some time for it to shake out, for them to determine the demand and the number of employees and who those employees are. And I think that giving them this extra time will only make the ultimate housing offer a better offer.
Any other comments from commissioners? I agree with what Joan said. Okay, see some nodding heads. Let's go to 9. No, not the one we just did. Excuse me, 10. This is taking the applicant's proposal with regard to the limit of development on the private deal the applicant has with the seller, and instead expanding it somewhat and making it giving the enforcement power to either the town or VCS. The point here being that you need a third party to have the enforcement power because of the merger problem and the flaw in the way it's proposed. Now, the seller still has the contractual power to enforce it, but that doesn't mean the seller will. And what we're trying to do here is address the degree of additional development on those two lots. And since the applicant has already agreed to this, this way, if either the town or VCS has the enforcement power, we know it will be enforced, and we don't have to rely on a third party who may or may not have any interest in enforcing it at a later time. Fred, go
I
ahead.
thought, I guess my question would be, if they find they need more than 1,200 square feet for their housing needs, I think they should be given that option.
But they have other lots there.
They can come back.
They'd have to, if they're going to build housing on another lot, they would have to come back as a modification.
Right.
I'm
They
sorry,
still
maybe
have
I'm,
4-8 They still have lots 4, 8, and 410 that they can develop. This only covers 4, 9, and 413. 413 is the lot by the road, and 4, 9
okay,
is a lot, is one of the two back lots. But they
It's
have
the farthest
410 and
away.
yeah, 410, actually 4, 8's not part of this, but they have no limits on lot number 410, although they have to come back to us because it's part of this DRI. But there's no development limit on 410, only on 4, 9, and 413.
okay.
Okay. Okay, let's go to number 11.
And this one we added today because we forgot
Yeah,
this before. This is to address the wastewater planner's concerns about nitrogen.
yeah, I had notes to do that also. So they're gonna have to provide, we should put in that they're gonna, I mean, water use records don't mean much unless there's a meter. So we should put in that they have to meter their water use. And why would we say further, do we usually say further mitigation may be required, or do we have the applicant propose further mitigation for review and approval by LUPC?
This is what we've said before.
Okay, okay,
Um,
Although I would rather that the onus was on them to come in to us.
Yeah.
I suppose we can, Sherry can look at the documentation. I don't know. I don't care.
For
I
the
mean-
mitigation shall be, I mean,
Well, I don't think it should be shall, because it might be de minimis.
Yeah.
And there may be other reasons why why further mitigation isn't necessary.
okay, if this is the way we've done it, I can live with it then. We can still require it. Any
yeah,
other concerns of commissioners?
Is that annual water, or is that average annual water usage? And I don't know the answer to that.
annually for each of 3 years.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
So just so like understand, if it's, 401 and 400 another, but 560 in the third year, they have to come back. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
That's
we
how
may
we-
not require anything, but they have to.
I
come
know,
back.
I just want to clarify. Okay.
Okay. Any further commissioner comments on number 11? Okay. Final landscape plan. This is our standard. Final exterior lighting.
Except that we've added this
Oh, wait,
bullet
yeah,
point.
excuse me. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I asked for that, actually. They have to landscape so that there's staff housing for Poly Hill that's very close to the area that where they're gonna have their parking. So all we're asking is that they, which we've done in multiple of the cases, that you landscape so that the vehicle and other lighting doesn't spill over. Okay. We have our exterior lighting. The rest of this is all what we'd always do.
And 15 is again our usual condition, but we've added specific language for this project for things that would need to come back or not need to come back.
And they had offered, I thought, to grant the town an easement for a shared use path, but it was not actually in the offers. Whether we want to condition that or not, I don't know. Silvino, you had your hand up.
Well, I was wondering if the lighting standards were going to apply to the other two lots at Still Point, but those have to come back anyway, I guess.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, there was an offer to work with the town on any
Right.
shared use path. And it was offered, not in the final list of offers, but it was stated by the applicant.
Alex, the shed on lot 4.13, that's the new structure they were talking about?
I believe so.
They already built that, didn't they?
Did
Already
they?
there.
I don't know. Maybe the applicant could clarify that.
Is that shed already there?
I don't think so. It says proposed shed on the plans.
It's not
I
there.
think that was,
Not there, okay.
so I guess the question is, why would we? I can understand why we wouldn't care about the clearing for the land bank trailhead, but we would for the shed, I believe.
Well, the shed is on the, it's there, it's proposed. We can see where it's going to be. You
Do we have
saying,
dimensions? Do we have
It,
dimensions? Do we have any
it
use?
wasn't
what
included
uses?
in the proposal.
I think details were to be determined on the shed.
Well,
The
then they
shed
gotta
wasn't
come back.
included. The shed wasn't included in this.
oh, good point then.
So should we just take this out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're gonna have to come back up if they want to put the shed there. Okay,
So, what,
you should say including but not limited to, not in that parenthetical.
why is that?
Why not?
Oh, yeah, okay, whatever.
Okay. Anything further on proposed conditions? Okay, let's. And where are their offers? Oh, I don't have the applicant offers in a position to pick which ones are not duplicated. Okay. Well, one is inconsistent with what we've discussed. Two is inconsistent with what we've discussed, I believe. Three is covered by ours. Four is conflicts with ours. Five is, doesn't matter, we've got it. So it's a duplication. Six, that's fine. 7, 8. Well, 6 and 7 are fine. 8 is covered. 9 is covered. 10 is covered. 11 is covered. What's after that? 12 we want.
Yeah, 12,
13 is okay.
12 we want, but is that how we want it?
I think it's covered by, isn't it covered by, didn't we have one? Didn't we add one?
No, we didn't.
As indicated on the site distance map that they provided. So we have.
What
document.
should say is Still Point shall clear and maintain clear the area, clear of vegetation, the area in that map. We don't want it to say to the right of the intersection, depends on how you're looking at it.
So do we want this to be a condition instead of an
Yeah, we
offer?
do. We do.
Yeah,
I
but
think
do
we
you
ought
get
to
the
include-
gist? I think we can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have to accept it. So what was it, 13? 14, we don't want. 15 is covered by ours. 16, we have our own. So I think it was only 13, was it only 13 and a
6,
couple
7,
of
and
others?
6, 7, and 13.
Okay,
And,
everybody got that?
yeah, okay.
6, 7, and 13 would be, we could accept in addition to recommending our proposed conditions.
Plus the the maintaining visibility condition.
Right, I'm assuming Alex will add that one. So, everybody got that? There are 3 offers would be recommended for acceptance in addition to recommending imposing the conditions we've reviewed at length and including a condition to keep the area on the plan at the road clear for sight lines. Could I hear a motion on that? To
Yeah,
recommend
sure.
that.
A motion that for the purposes of considering the benefits and detriments, we consider offers 6, 7, and 13 and the proposed conditions, including the new condition on maintaining sightline.
Okay, so
Second.
you're
Yeah,
moving
that was
to
a
recommend
was a
accepting,
recommendation.
imposing them, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's approved. Okay. All in favor, kindly raise your hand when Doug can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 6 of us. All opposed. Christina, were you voting in favor or opposed?
Favor.
Okay, so it's 7. It's a unanimous vote to recommend accepting those 3 conditions and, offers and imposing the conditions we've just reviewed. Let's talk about benefits and detriments. I want to get this done tonight. We can get to 7:30. Let's get it done now. Water quality, obviously a primary factor. They'll add a denitrification system. I think with water quality, if with our conditions, I think it becomes neutral. I hope it becomes neutral. I can't say that it's a benefit. The only question is whether
There's
it's
a
detriment.
there's a bathroom there now without an IA system, so with them putting it in, I think it's probably neutral.
I'll go with
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah, I'd say it's neutral. That bathroom was basically not used for many years too. Okay, so we can scroll down. Although I think, let's go back to water quality. I don't think that the last bullet point under water quality has any relevance here. Because it addresses the lots of the land bank and they're not part of this proposal.
So I'm not disagreeing, but the applicant would argue that they are because it was all part of one land agreement, purchase agreement.
Well, I don't see it that way. I know they make that argument. It's an argument in their favor. But the land bank bought the land. The land bank's opening the land to the public. The land bank is preserving it. They're not.
But Doug, I think if this is a modification of the subdivision, which is what is brought before us, the fact that those lots are now in conservation is a benefit.
Okay, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. We can leave it.
And can I just add that we originally applied for
No.
just 4 lots and we were told that it had to be a modification of the entire DRI. That wasn't our decision. We were
Okay.
told by the MVC.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but okay, it's in there. It'll stay in. And that means that the second bullet point in environment should stay in also. And in open space, same thing, third bullet point stays in.
So hold on just a second. Could we look at the
Yeah,
second? Point? I just
We
want
sure can.
I guess I want to read it again. So of course, it's potential habitat disturbance. Which I would like added, if you don't mind, Alex, in the second bullet point. An acreage of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we think? I can see in red it's primary. Are we coming down one way or the other on that or not?
Well, I guess it depends on how you see it. If you look at the whole thing and you consider that all the land bank lots will be preserved, that part is positive. Is it really positive that hundreds of people, you could have 700 events at those two lots in the course of a year? Is that a benefit to the environment?
So I think if it was fully developed and you had one residential structure on 5, 6, whatever it is it's, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. But I just think that the impact of this is potentially way greater than the impact of, a handful of houses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever it is. So I don't think I think this is not a benefit.
Okay. Open space, pretty much the same deal. You've got the land bank land, and then you've got the use of the Still Point lots. Is it a benefit, a detriment? Is it neutral? I'm not sure that I don't recall 4.14 being undeveloped and restricted as non-buildable. There is actually, according to the plan, not that it's really all that relevant here, but according to the plan that I saw, there is a building on it.
I can check that.
Yeah, it's not directly relevant to this applicant.
I think that I can be happy with this one. I don't know if it's a benefit or detriment, but the barn is already there, and essentially the parking area is already there as well. So provided that they don't do any further development, which would come back to us, I don't think there's a material change.
Yeah, I think it's neutral. Okay, let's go to the next one. Traffic. I'm not
Adding
sure
this
that
many, adding this many people here it's got to be a negative.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a detriment. I'm not sure that the last bullet point is accurate. It may be the statement the applicant made, but it wasn't that the Poly Hill mission would not allow it. I believe the Poly Hill conservation restriction would not allow it.
I mean, what they're talking about is an attempt to mitigate, which didn't pan out. So I don't think it's, I don't
think it's relevant at all. I think we could delete it. It would be mitigation by the use of an abutting property. So it's not really relevant. Okay, so traffic is definitely a detriment. There's just no way around it. Economic and social development. I don't know that it's a benefit economically, but certainly the applicant's proposal for educational use is intended to be a benefit for social development. And if it is fully realized in a way that's respectful of the environment, it will be a major benefit. Time will tell, but it's certainly, that's the goal.
You're right, that's major. That would be the major benefit of the project, would be that.
Any commissioners feel otherwise? Okay,
No, I think that's why.
that's
I
why
think
we're
that's
here.
why we're willing to do this.
Right.
Right.
Okay. Island
Hey,
housing
hey,
needs.
You know what, can you go back to that? So all of those facts above and, this event and that event, 2 per day and 44 cars and all that stuff. I don't know whether that's consistent with the conditions, but is it quite clear that that is what they have said?
It should be that the applicant proposes. Should be the applicant proposes restrictions.
Yeah.
When it
Because
says restrictions that would apply, it should be the applicant has, yeah. But I think you should say underneath, the applicant has proposed the following restrictions.
Yeah, and the reason I think so is because if I heard Doug say so correctly, that those things that they have proposed would be binding on them.
Yeah, it's the scope
As
of
part
their
of their
application.
project. Yeah.
Right, it's the scope of what they're proposing.
If this
As
conflicts,
part of its application.
if this conflicts with the conditions, though, we should probably work this out so that there's not conflicting information in the decision, which we can
Right.
do.
That's
So
why I
one
asked
place
the
we're saying
question,
100
because I
and
think
another
it's,
50.
yeah, that's why I asked the question, Alex, because in reading it, I was like, is everyone going to know what takes precedence? So if you could try to work through that, it would be helpful.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'll work that out.
Okay, let's move down to island housing needs. I think this one, assuming that land use planning does its job, it should be neutral, but we just don't know.
I think it's terrible to not take a view about this, but it could be that they have a need for 5 employees and land use planning is happy with them dealing with 3 of them and not 2 of them. That does not make it a benefit. So I think that we just simply need to take we
Position.
cannot take a position on it because it remains to be determined in 2 years.
Yep.
Mm,
Okay, next is impact on the butters. I don't know how this can be anything but a detriment.
Right. I would say that we've tried to mitigate
Mitigate
the
it.
impacts, but we haven't eliminated the impacts.
Yeah, you can't.
We added a bullet here that the residential abutters to the north have actually voiced support for the project, just because that wasn't there before.
Immediately to the north, and then there's another abutter farther to the north who expressed concerns. I think that was O'Neill.
mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you make that singular?
Yeah.
A residential abutter?
Um,
I trust that's what you
Yeah,
intended.
yeah, it's just, yeah, to their husband and wife. Okay.
I don't think you need to add in about.
We don't have
Brendan.
to, you don't have to do anything about O'Neill. I don't mean, it's not Brendan O'Neill, it was, I may have the wrong name.
Oh,
It was another abutter farther to the north. I think they were just to the north of the whole subdivision. Okay, low and moderate income housing, not applicable. Except to the extent we've got a housing condition. Should have minimal impact on municipal services. It's not going to have much of an impact on taxpayers, maybe a negative one, because it probably should get some real estate tax relief. I don't know whether they're gonna have to pay anything. I just don't know how that's handled for real estate. Marilyn, can you clarify, you guys gonna have to pay real estate tax?
As a nonprofit, I think we're exempt.
That's what I thought, yeah. So I think it'll have a negative effect on it may be a minimal impact on municipal services, but it'll have a negative impact on taxes. Okay, let's move on to public facilities wasn't important. I guess the last one is appropriate or essential.
that's a hard one.
you want to touch on the municipal development, because there was a lot of
Oh, sorry, I
discussion
didn't
about
see it.
this at the town level.
Where was the? I thought we just did.
No, it's right in front of you right now.
Full ordinances and bylaws.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I'm sorry, yeah, yeah, I think that the last bullet at the very least has to be changed because it's the applicant says the Dover Amendment will exempt it. I think that would be more fair to say contends that it does. I think if the applicant can establish that it's using the property predominantly for educational purposes, they have a strong opportunity to be exempt from all town zoning bylaws except those regarding site building dimensions and setbacks, and a couple of other very basic things. So the town will not be able to regulate the use of this property the way the Martha's Vineyard Commission can. We need to understand that, and we need to know that it's our job to protect the values, the regional values here, because the town won't be able to do it. And the town, I don't believe, expected. As a matter of fact, the planning board sent a follow-up letter saying that the applicant did not discuss the use of the property for weddings when they were before the planning board in May.
And the town, I believe, disagrees with the applicant about the Dover Amendment, as far as I can tell. So this might have to be worked out at the town level. And
Well, it will be, or it'll be worked out in the Superior Court is where it'll be
Yeah.
worked out if there's a problem there.
It
So they
was
have-
the building inspector who first raised the Dover Amendment in his
Yeah.
letter. He was the one who mentioned that we qualified under Dover in his letter.
Yeah,
It
well,
might be in the
I don't
record.
think, yep, I don't think that it's his call. Actually, I think it'll be the call of the ZBA or the planning board. You know, that's his opinion. I wouldn't mind having your position on it, though.
Mhm. That was
Fred,
gonna be my question.
yeah, and Peter?
That was
Yes,
my question. Has the applicant applied for an exemption under the Dover Amendment, or do they
They
intend
can't.
to?
They can't, because they got to get past us first, and then they'll go to the town, and when they do, I'm quite sure the applicant, who is well represented, will be raising that issue.
Okay,
I was just going to quote from our section 14C, which is the applicable section of our enabling legislation,
Right,
which
go
is
ahead.
actually kind of interesting. We kind of don't get to this part most of the time. The proposed development is consistent with municipal development ordinances and bylaws, or if it is inconsistent, the inconsistency is necessary to enable a substantial segment of the population of a larger community of which the municipality is a part to secure adequate opportunities for housing, education, or recreation. So I
Which is
think
wh-
that this kind of falls under at least two of those categories.
All it has to do is fall under the education one.
Yeah.
But
So
they have
it-
to meet certain requirements with regard to, the educational use has to be the predominant use of the property. And it has to have a significant connection with the specific uses. It's all laid out in case law, but again, that is only an exemption from local zoning bylaws. It's not an exemption. It has no application to our regulatory powers. But you're right, I think it probably fits in section 14.
Well, it raises a question as to whether or not we want to have a finding on this, because it says the commission shall permit the referring agency to grant the development permit only if it finds after public hearing, blah, 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 as Fred read.
I don't think we have to find, well,
Okay, fine, great.
yeah, I don't,
I'd rather
I
not.
would be uncomfortable making that particular finding.
Me too.
Let the commission, let the applicant and the local zoning board or planning board decide the issue of this Dover Amendment. How about appropriate and essential? It's not essential. And is it particularly appropriate to place this particular use in this particular land?
Well, I think, you know, I mean, we have heard various people testify that they were in favor of this because it brings appreciation to this conserved land in a respectful way. And I think our concern is that it doesn't get loved to death.
Yep.
So that's the balancing job that we're trying to do here. So it's like what we're hoping is that with the conditions that we have proposed, that this is appropriate and that it is a good use of this property as laid out in 831. So I would say that we've worked very hard to make sure that it is appropriate.
Would you like to make a motion about it?
I would move that we recommend to the full commission with the offers and conditions that we've stated to approve this project.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, is there further discussion?
I'm not gonna, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna vote at this time. I would like to hold my vote until the commission comments on everything.
I was thinking the same thing. I plan to abstain because I am still troubled by the potential volume of events. I do not question the sincerity of the applicant's good intentions. But I am concerned about the potential of having literally hundreds of events and thousands of people using the property, no matter how good the applicant's intentions are. And I still have to think about whether additional limits are needed on the number of events there to protect that property, the land bank property, and the Poly Hill property. But there's a motion before us, and we'll take a vote on it. All in favor of that recommendation, kindly raise your hand. Here's one. All opposed, kindly raise your hand. All abstaining, kindly raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
And
That is the way we will report it to the commission. We'll have to think some more. Okay, Christina, did you say something?
yeah,
Go ahead.
not that I mean, I want to make a comment. I'm not abstaining because I don't want to participate anymore or whatever. I'm abstaining, like Doug has well put it, and other people have also said, I'm not ready to be confident or as confident as I need to be to vote that we are, that we have covered protecting the land while it's being, well, a piece of it is being put to a really good use, the quiet meditation, the quietness of the vineyard altogether. But there's a lot of acres that are still, whether through permanent restrictions, that issue that we need to look at pretty carefully, or even the boundaries. Is Poly Hill agreeing that people can go or can be chained off from going through their property to get to the Stillwater property? I need a little more time to do a lot of notes to myself and finding out some more information.
So what we will do
We'll
is
get there before we get, we vote at the full commission.
we will report these deliberations to the full commission. And we did vote in favor of accepting 3 offers and imposing
Right.
fairly extensive conditions, and I think we just have to think some more about whether any additional limits on the use of the property are required
Yeah.
to protect the land bank and Polly Hill properties. But as I said already several times, we don't doubt the sincerity of the applicant's intent to do something good for the community. We just have to make sure that we balance that use with the values we are mandated to protect. So there we are. This is now ready for review by deliberation and decision by the full commission. Alex, do we have a date for this? Is it a week from Thursday?
This would also be January 5th.
Okay. Good. We get to start off the year with a bang. Okay. There we are. We're done for tonight. A lot of hard work. And this isn't easy. So I appreciate the work of the commissioners. See you not this Thursday, but next
Doug, can I
Thursday.
ask-
And there
Doug,
is
can I
a,
ask you a question?
it depends on what it is. Go ahead.
It's a procedural question. Is there ever, from this point forward until the vote of the commission, is there ever another point where you get public input?
No,
Thank you.
Well,
no, that unless we ask for a clarification at deliberation.
Oh, you
The
don't need to
record-
go on.
I
I
know,
get it.
but I'm explaining it to Christina.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay. Anyway, there you go. There's the answer. The answer is no.
Thank
So,
you.
see you January the 5th. Everybody have a great holiday. And commissioners, remember that there is an executive session on Wednesday, the 7th. And then we have hopefully our last gathering of the year on, what is it, the 14th?
15th.
15.
15th, yeah. Okay, thank you all. Long night. Thanks. Bye. Adjourn.